Okay, so I'm thinking I'm bearish, but we're gonna see. Oh, come on. Shit, I forgot to do that.
Friends, the FBI got hacked. Literally in the last couple days, but it seems like the Epstein files out of the FBI were hacked. 100 terabytes were actually gone out of nowhere, and they basically look like in the process. So they basically start off with so I'm going to start off with a little bit of front loading to sort of get you up to the context. Now, in the last couple days, the FBI has confirmed
I'm down like 200 points.
targeting a sensitive internal network that managed wiretapping operations and foreign intelligence services. So basically, for anybody that doesn't know, the FBI is sort of the chief of the cybersecurity, defense, I would say offense in the country. But the thing about the FBI is they also do a lot of surveillance. So for anybody that doesn't know, the FBI started off basically building programs like Carnivore, for instance, where they went to the internet service providers, they went to the people that control the backbone of the internet, installed surveillance software, and in certain cases were able to monitor and capture, at the time, megabytes, hundreds of thousands of megabytes of information. And then they could actually filter through these emails and see exactly
That's kind of bullish, honestly.
Obviously, the FBI evolved even further than that. The FBI had programs like Magic Lantern, which for anybody that doesn't know what Magic Lantern is basically the FBI
I don't guess that would be enough of a liquidity sweep, but here we are. Yep, that would have smashed. Craziness. Okay.
Follow everything down to a T. But that's a whole different story. For anybody that doesn't know, the FBI confirmed they actually had suspicious activities, and they basically responded in every way. They didn't give details on how much information was accessed or whether actual investigations were compromised. But they did actually put the blame on one organization known as Izoon, something that we've talked about in the past before. Now, I've talked about this for years. They're basically an organization that has come since 2020, the height of COVID. They're basically the Chinese government. And what the Chinese government did is they got some of the best actors to not hack the FBI. Actually, they hacked the people the FBI trusts the most. So the FBI, in order to surveil the internet, anytime they get like sort of a wiretap, they have to basically grab data from the internet service provider. So when you're in the United States of America, you typically have all of these options to pick. You can get your internet from Verizon, you can get your internet from AT&T.
It was a decent long. I just wasn't. I was just so early into the session. Without Skechers.
Is something that the FBI uses. The FBI has a special connection to these people, so they can just move data off, they can grab people's information, provided they have a fucking warrant. So basically what the Chinese hackers did in this case was they leveraged that trust, and they actually used the connection of the internet service provider by hacking the internet service provider, and then filtering through the FBI's surveillance network. Now, from a good write-up at securityboulevard.com, they actually said that apparently the information that was grabbed was not necessarily the actual like intercepted communication. That would be probably something known as digital storm, but what they actually got was something known as ECS 3000 or Red Hook, which allowed them to grab the information and personally identifiable information from individuals under investigation, along with the metadata used to map communication patterns for criminal and national security folks. So again, very, very important information that shouldn't have ended up in if the FBI decided to just turn off the switch, they would basically be ending their entire surveillance system. The FBI just thought with a little gingerly care, and you have to make sure you don't destroy your whole surveillance network, and you're just basically closing up the leaks that exist. Obviously, Salt Tycoon did this, and for anybody that's been looking into Salt Tycoon, the last few years they've been on a tear trying to go through every sort of telecom network out there. It really is some actual scary shit. It's one of the reasons why I say, like, you know, I don't really care if the government is tracking me, but I know the tools that the government is using to track me are exploited by another country, another hacker, and so on and so forth. It's a fucked up thing. The FBI got hacked, and you might be like, well, where do we go from here? Not really anywhere, to be honest with you. You know, if the FBI is getting glitched, then we're pretty much just suffering in the process. And you know that this hack is pretty serious when you've got the White House and the National Security Agency that have jumped in to basically analyze this together. It is a sophisticated hack. And again, while they kind of blame and put the eye line towards basically China, because when you say nation state, you're basically saying it was China that was attacking us. And at this point in time, obviously it's something that worries the FBI, I imagine it worries the U.S. government, because what kind of information that they've gotten through the FBI's mass surveillance network is kind of anybody's guess until and after this investigation is done. But they say that the affected systems were unclassified and contain law enforcement sensitive information, including returns from the legal process, such as a pen register and track and trace surveillance returns, and personally identifiable information pertaining to subjects of FBI investigation. The people that necessarily aren't even guilty are just people that are being investigated by the FBI. And again, the FBI can really just investigate whoever, and they can convince a judge to get a warrant on, and God knows who what. You know, it's crazy stuff. And the only reason that we're blaming this again on the Chinese is that the method used to attack the internet service provider of the telecom industry shared a lot of similarities to Salt Tycoon. So again, the kind of hack that you're seeing over here is not something that the average person is doing. It's what somebody's doing when they have unlimited resources, really, really good raw talent, and of course, even if they're caught, they never have a chance of being extradited, because good luck extraditing somebody from the Chinese Communist Party to the United States. They're going to tell you to get back, and we would have said it too, vice versa, if the shoes were on the other foot. Now, here's where the story also gets even more interesting. So this is not a hack. It was actually another hack that sort of got the compromised the files held by the FBI. And actually, you can verify this kind of for yourself too. So I go to the Epstein files over here, and typically the Epstein files or is 259.pdf. You can see that this is a group of individual special agents that were involved with them investigating the Epstein files. That wasn't actually blocked off here was Aaron Spivak. Aaron Spivak. Aaron Spivak is an individual that actually was brought into great scrutiny because apparently his actions led to an FBI server being hacked, and unfortunately a hacker accessed these FBI files and actually saw some of the CSAN that they had captured and stored in the Epstein files. Now while the FBI says, listen, it's a cyber incident, it's a type the FBI, and that's all you really can say, it's pretty much the only thing you can bring up. Now inside here I have EFTA 001739, which actually is a statement that you actually scroll up all the way here. This is Aaron Spivak actually having his statement given about what had actually happened. So for instance, he understands he's an internal investigation investigation that Special Agent Spivak improperly stored digital evidence at his residence. So not something that you should be doing, especially when you're working with, something as dangerous, something as sensitive as CSAM material, obviously. One of the things that I talk to with people who actually investigate this for a living is that in most cases, big mega CSAM databases, a lot of stuff is stored after. They don't even store the images. Actually, seeing the images is something that very few people who work in these organizations actually, have the unfortunate, horrors of actually seeing. But in cases like this, when you have something sensitive, you shouldn't be leaving it unsecured and accessible by people outside the FBI network, okay? Jesus Christ. So here he kind of explains what had actually happened to an extent and how the systems were hacked. So I'm going to read this from him and explain exactly what's going on. So one of the remote computing was the use of it, right? And this is talking about after things like COVID. A few years ago, when he attended training provided by the International Association of Computer Investigative Specialists, during which he went through basic computer forensics, I heard about law enforcement use of remote desktop protocol. Now, RDP is a framework that we use to remotely access a computer. Remember that Windows video I made where you could run, Windows applications underneath Linux and it would look like it was native, like the actual Windows popped up? A lot of those windows popped up because RDP was used to connect through the virtual machines interface to the computer, so you could remotely access a computer, and in that case, make it look as if it was kind of almost native. So anyways, RDP was being used in the Bureau, but he was not sure for what purposes on what devices. He spoke with several others in the FBI about RDP, and again, they mentioned he had either been using it or played around with the idea. One of the individuals mentioned to me that setting it up was using it was fairly easy, and that all I had to do was Microsoft directions, as they were pretty easy to follow. So again, Microsoft brought up the instructions to set up RDP, and he's like, good, I guess I'll go with it, right? So anyways, he had access to the C20 computer lab through RDP. Remoting in. But probably because of like firewall, or obviously because you have to VPN into the network in order to do anything. Just because you have to have secure tunneling, and we'll get to that in a second. He had no idea that in doing so, he had opened the lab to RDP port, and that it had worked. I could actually support from in the lab, but once outside the lab, I was unable to gain access to the network. I thought the security was doing what it was supposed to. I was later advised that the RDP configuration was mostly correct, and that I was a step or two away from setting it up successfully and securely. So basically, he almost had it right, except for one step he needed basically allowed that computer at the FBI to be accessed from the outside. So I believe enabling remote access was a good initiative, but it wasn't executed properly. Now the reason he made a remote thing for this was that in case something had crashed through the office and he was at home, he could just dial in through the RDP, reset some things, start the process again. So obviously, I would say noble intention, but a horrible fucking execution. My heart and mind were in the right place. I lacked knowledge for networking and was not a system administrator. Yet I was tasked with setting up a network I did not know how to set up. And despite repeated requests for help, I was denied. I should not be held accountable for the FBI's systemic failure, especially when the FBI encouraged me and accused me to enhance our lab. So basically, he's like saying, listen, I'm not on the full stack. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing with the network. The FBI tells me to do this. I asked the FBI for help, but you know what? I'm just on their side here. There's no reason the FBI couldn't have somebody that would have helped them out doing this. When you're working with something as sensitive as this, you shouldn't be fucking up this royally. And no matter who the administration is, the FBI should in theory be an independent from the DOJ. They should always have some level of competency. So this was probably around the time frame of the Biden era. Nobody was questioning this shit even then. So again, no matter what side you're on, if the FBI did, at least according to how they phrased it yesterday. So he says at 7:30 he arrived at the office and he noticed his Oreo computer was restarting. For anybody who doesn't know what Oreo is, Oreo computers kind of are like, for instance, these little servers. These are forensic systems, and a lot of people forensic software, like Paladin, for instance, where they dial in with a
Damn, okay.
live Linux environment, and of course they then do their forensic
I didn't think we were gonna dumpy wumpy like that. Apparently we are. we can go even lower than that, but we're gonna see. Okay. Yeah. Okay. See how this goes. Trying to become more of a coffee girly. Less energy drinks type shit. Let's see how this goes. Looking pretty good at the moment. Dare I say,
illiterate, they know what they're doing. But again, just because you know how to do computer forensics also doesn't mean you know how to do network security, right? They're two almost separate fields in this case. But anyways, let's go down over here, and you can see that at 740, he plugs in his Arduino, it text pops up and said, in part, my network has been compromised, and provided an email address to contact. The file is in the startup folder, so when logging in and open
I need way more
software, which is
white chocolate sauce in this bitch. Like way more. Like way more. Like way more, brother.
Strange IP activity that took place yesterday from two IP adversaries. The activity included combing through certain files pertaining to the FP investigation. I reached out to one of the case agents to see if they were in the office, thinking that maybe they inadvertently changed the setting on a NAS, or if they noticed anything strange about them. Then they go into the IPs and check all of our computers to see which of the IPs in question. One computer, our discovery computer, matched one of them and is located in the room.
We're gonna see though. Oh, or it might be fine. We're gonna see.
What had happened afterwards, right? So what did that
2 minutes till 7.
They don't actually tell, the FBI doesn't actually tell us what the hacker saw, what the hacker downloaded, what the hacker did. But what we do know is about 100 terabytes of information has seemed to disappear. And you can see Spivak actually say 500 terabytes of data was gone because of the result of the intrusion. I was able to recover 400 terabytes of that data. However, I was told to Google how to recover the data. No one else tried to help us. So immediately I'm kind of looking at this and I'm wondering, wait a minute, what? He had 500 terabytes gone. He was able to remove 400, but 100 terabytes are gone. Which, by the way, is a huge amount of information. Imagine 100 terabytes. 100 terabytes. Even though you have like a fraction of that in their computers locally. 100 terabytes being gone is some pretty huge information to see over here. And of course, when I see that no one tried to help us, it makes me wonder almost that, has this been some sort of inside job? Has this been something that was abused by another interest in the FBI? Like, what the fuck is happening anymore? You know, you would think that this kind of shit would happen in, like, some third-tier, like, country or whatever, where, like, maybe their intelligence services isn't as good. But, I mean, this is the goddamn Federal Bureau of Investigation, man. Like, what's going on? Where it also gets even dumber here, ladies and gentlemen, is what it actually...
I don't know what's actually holding it up here. Which makes me think that we're gonna get the Dumperuski. But I don't know. I do not know. We're gonna see.
The intrusion was carried out by a foreign hacker who did not appear to realize that they had penetrated a law enforcement server. So basically, according to this, a hacker breaks into the FBI servers. They don't even know they're in the FBI servers, right? Now, according to this, they expressed disgust at the presence of child abuse images on the device. So they break into a server with all of this CSAM material, and they're like, oh my god, this is completely inaccurate. They leave a note on the server and they say, listen, I'm going to turn you over to the FBI. So the FBI is like, wait a minute, we're about to get a call about us. So then the FBI diffused the situation by convincing the hacker that they were actually the FBI. They had the hacker join a Zoom call, I believe, where they flashed their badge in front of the webcam. I mean, you can't make this shit up, man. Like, they left an unsecure server full of probably some of the most sensitive materials out there.
Ooh, okay.
Some guy breaks in, you're like, oh my god, this is filthy and nasty. Leave the note, the FBI is like, wait a minute, hold on. Buddy, get it. Word of effect. Here's my badge. I mean, what are you, fucking bots? Like, come on. Like, Jesus Christ. So, of course, nobody knows, like,
What the fuck even is this? Why aren't they deleting? God, it drives me crazy when they do this.
But it makes me wonder too, is like if the hacker has gotten into it, what else isn't the FBI telling us, right? Like who else also didn't filter through the system and get access to information that we thought would have been locked down, tighter than a Bill Carson's asshole in some cases, right? I mean, it's insane to see how far this story has gone. But at least we can confirm in this case that yes, the FBI seems to have had its Epstein files hacked. There probably could be a situation, again, the FBI hasn't exactly explained every single detail of it. We don't know if anything in this network was sort of grabbed, downloaded, or, and again, this information is pretty germane to even other intelligence agencies, right? Like, I can imagine, the Chinese government, the Russians, people looking through these documents, hoping to find something that they can use as blackmail or use something as leverage against a U.S. high-ranking politician, a U.S. serviceman, a woman, whatever you want to call it, anybody. I can imagine this information would be very useful to anybody that isn't a citizen hacker. So, again, to see the FBI do such a blunder here, not just in their surveillance and wiretapping systems, but also storing some of the most valuable investigative files that they probably could have had, really makes me question how good the agency actually is, Like, it's crazy. 5-6 years ago, I used to be like, man, the FBI is like the fucking cream of the crop when it comes to this. And now it seems like everybody that is running the FBI, top to bottom, is just a complete fucking goober. And they probably shouldn't be trusted with something so sensitive and serious. So yeah, there's a lot of technical stuff to look through over here, but I'm glad that we have these files. I'm glad that we can read through this stuff because there's just so much information. That's why, I listen to videos, they get longer. I go into the weeds because I feel like if you're going to watch these videos, I want every single one of my videos to have something meaningful, something that you can share, something that will be evergreen, something that you can learn from. And I think that happened in today's video, right? We all learned how terrible the FBI is, and we all know that these Epstein files have been accessed, and in some cases, a lot of information seems to have been removed. Now again, some of that information has also been for other investigations, but it is genuinely something worth going into. And it's also something worth bringing up. But given the lack of justice on the American side for the Epstein files, I don't even think the FBI will be held up to task.
shade of green pixel side of
Holy
it.
crap.
The whole purpose of green screens is to cut a subject out from the background. And when you think about it, all the visual effects really boil down to this one core technique: cutting something out and putting it on top of something else. Even all those crazy shots you see in a movie like Avatar still have to go through a process where real footage is cut out and put on top of it. But here's the problem. Cutting things out is a pain in the butt. When you have to do it for every picture, 24 pictures per second for an entire 2-hour movie, that's 172,800 pictures. So filmmakers have constantly tried to come up with ways to make this easier.
Looks like a
There's
fucking
just
cell
one
model to
big
me.
problem. You
Let's see
can't
what
film
happens here now.
transparency. If something is transparent, by definition, it can't be seen. And cameras can't portray transparency in their pixels. If you shoot nothing, the camera will just show you the color black. If you want to put a person on an alien planet and you don't want solid black all around them, in some way, shape, or form, you need to do some cutting. In the early days of cinema, filmmakers shot on physical film, which had workarounds you could use to get a transparent frame. An unexposed strip of film is covered in tiny little crystals. And when you take a picture, those silver crystals that were exposed to light stick to the film. And then you wash off the other ones, leaving you with actual transparency in the film. If you're careful with how light would hit your film, you could create little pockets of transparency mats, that would allow you to take footage shot in one place and place it over footage shot elsewhere by literally layering those two pieces of film together. But what happens when you have to worry about more than just black and white brightness values? What if you're shooting in color and you need to cut spaceships out for a space battle in Star Wars? Well, the visual effects artists on Empire Strikes Back were tasked with the grueling process of splitting up each individual channel of color used to make color film: red, green, and blue. And if you shoot your subject on a blue background, then the background is so contrasting against anything not blue, you can turn it into a black and white map of your subject. Voila! Now you can have any number of cutout ships that you can stick onto a space background and have an epic battle scene, except this process was a nightmare and required a ton of filtering, re-exposing, and recombining layers of film through this iron lung-esque machine called an optical printer. Plus, if anything has the color blue in it, it's also going to get cut out. Either way, when you're working with films like this, you're left with solid black and white mattes. Light is either coming all the way through or not at all. There's not really any in between. So any fuzzy edges or transparent materials are off limits. So what do you do if you're working for Walter Disney and he tells you he wants to film a dance number with real actors that are in an animated world, but also they're wearing semi-transparent clothes and also the color blue? Well, if you're Pedro Vlahos, that's not a problem because you're a problem solver and you know about the beauty of sodium vapor light. We've talked about it on this channel before. The gist of it is that you light your subject normally, but the background is lit with sodium vapor lights, and sodium vapor light is exclusively within a tiny wavelength of the light spectrum. Then use a custom-made magic crystal and expose two pieces of film at the same time. One is just the sodium vapor backdrop, the other one is all the rest of the light. With this method, you're getting mathematically perfect cutouts, since you're just filtering out exact wavelengths and you're preserving any semi-transparent transmission of that light. So that's it. Perfect transparency. We did it. Unless you don't work for Disney, who has the exclusive rights to use this technology. In reality, people were stuck with blue screens for decades, and they waited for new technology to come along to make their lives easier. And then computers happened. Let's look at this fantastic
Scone Computer Systems, just $24.95.
Enter the green screen, the answer to all of our problems. The promise that you'll never have to chemically process film to isolate a color. You can just take a computer and say, computer, make this color transparent. This was the dawn of chroma key. It's called chroma key, and here's how it works. You can technically use any color for the chroma green. It was good because it stood out from skin and clothes, and digital cameras actually have more green pixels than other colors. One of the ways you can represent color on the computer is to use a number that represents brightness, known as the luma, and another number that represents the color, known as the chroma. Then you can select that chroma number and say, make it transparent. And then the farther away we get from that number, we make it less transparent. With that simple evolution, the green wave had begun. Anybody and everybody could throw up a green screen and make computer make transparent. Now I could finally make my own Star Wars movie. Except it turns out that green screens also kind of suck.
A necessary evil, I think, is a good way to describe it.
Sometimes literally, like, forget the green screen, it's gonna be a roto job, which is basically cutting out the part of the image that you want, frame by frame.
It's not the fun part of doing
short.
VFX. The fun part of VFX is having key footage. Now you're playing with your action figures again.
You're going to have issues with any heavy motion blur. You're going to have issues with anything that is semi-transparent or refractive. You're going to have issues with all the hair that's ever existed is going to cause you problems. Anytime that green is starting to blend in a little bit, you're going to have an absolute nightmare of a time getting rid of it, because it's also going to get rid of parts of the There are solutions to that, obviously. There's some solutions to all of these things, but it all takes time. As an artist, I got into this craft for the fun of it. That's a little entitled to some degree, right? It always takes a little bit of effort, a little bit of work, and the suffering is what makes the pleasure rewarding and whatnot. But we only do it because we have to.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many elements of this craft that I do because I love
That
it.
did
and that's not
close,
one of them.
technically.
So green screen has all these problems. Why then do I need to use it?
Bro, I just got a horrible fucking
You
entry.
have this crazy
Like,
visual
down
effects
bad,
that Sam's
horrendous.
doing, and it can take your character, relight them,
Like,
put them into
Jesus.
an environment. It looks amazing. But in order to work, it needs you to cut out the actor from the background of the footage that you filmed them on. And that's the one weak link right now that's holding the entire project back. But wait, doesn't Beeble offer a way to cut out your character? Don't like 1,000 tools like that already exist? My phone can do it, no problem. Well, his Beeble pipeline is currently using AI Roto. There are a lot of AI Roto tools out there, but none of them do what I am. Since most of
You're
these
really
tools
gonna
are made by
immediately
multi-billion-dollar
go up
corporations
after a
and
clear
put more
inverse?
features into their
Ugh.
devices, these tools aren't really
Ugh.
on a professional level of quality for visual effects.
What kind of
And they
price
struggle
action
with
is
things
this,
like
bro?
semi-transparent objects, or consistent edges, or high detail areas like hair.
fuck.
The semi-transparency problem is a big one. Imagine I hold a red gel up in front of a blue screen. What color is that red gel to the camera? Well, the eye dropper, we can see it's purple because we have the red gel and the blue color behind mixing together. to make
Fuck,
up
bro.
the
This
pixel.
sucks.
But here's the thing. You fire up an AI Roto
We're gonna
program,
see what
it tests it
happens,
out.
but
And what
this
color is this
shit-
gel now? It's still purple. But this gel
Not
is
looking
red.
very
And if I
ideal
filmed
right
it on
now.
an actual transparent background with some magical camera that could capture transparency, it would give me a half-transparent red gel. So I need a program that can intelligently unmix that background color from this foreground color. And currently there is not an AI Roto program that does that. And most of the people making these tools are programmers and not visual effects artists. And that leaves me with only one option. I'm gonna have to do it myself.
Damn, son.
Luckily, I have an idea that
So
isn't
I got
just using the
cooked,
basic
completely
color
cooked
structure
today.
that we've been using for the past 30
Completely
years.
and
An idea that
entirely.
modernizes the
Yeah.
workflow, just like how these tech companies have modernized rotoscoping.
Pretty unfortunate.
If you're going to build a tool that's going to revolutionize green screen, the first thing that you're going to need is a website to host all
Why
your cool
would we keep
VFX
going
shots,
up, bro?
which you can do
Why
with
would
today's
we
sponsor,
keep going up?
Squarespace. You see, Squarespace has everything you need for somebody who
Just
doesn't know how to
do
build
it.
websites to build a website. One of the really cool things about Squarespace
Just
is
do it.
they have all these different
Don't
tools for
play
creating
games
your
with me.
website. You can use things called Blueprint AI. So you can
What?
give the Squarespace AI feedback
What?
on how you want your site designed and have something bespoke, custom
What?
designed for you from the ground up. Also, they simplified the process of dealing with things like payments. So if you're running a store, you need to be able to accept credit cards, Klarna, Afterpay, things like that, Apple Pay. You are set with Squarespace. They make it really easy. It's just a few clicks to get set up. On top of that, you can do things like sending invoices and other sorts of payment systems with Squarespace as well. Squarespace is a fantastic service for creating and owning a website. So if there's any reason why you might want to have one, whether you're trying to run a business, create a project with me, whatever it might be, make sure you check out Squarespace. Also, you go to squarespace.com/CorridorCrew and you can get a free trial. Use the coupon code CorridorCrew, a lot of alliteration right there, to get 10% off your first purchase. All right, now where was I? Oh yeah, dealing with this. Let's reinvent this. All right, here's how I'm gonna do this. So when you look at something on a green screen, you can tell what's the foreground and what's the background. There's some pattern that's clicking in your brain to detect what should be transparent and what isn't. We want the computer to recognize these same patterns that your brain recognizes. And there's a tool that's really good for doing that called a neural network. Theoretically, if I give a neural network enough pictures of something on a green screen,
Ooh.
as well as pictures of what is just the background and
Wow.
what is just the foreground, eventually that neural network should be able to predict the answer just like you can. Meaning that once it's trained, I can give it any new picture of something on a green screen, and it will predict how to cut it out. So that's what I'm going to try to do. There's a couple big problems with this. One, I've never
can't believe you
trained a
respected
neural
that
network
1 minute
before.
so
I actually
hard.
don't know what I'm doing, so I'm going to have to
Price
learn.
action
Problem number
is
two,
not
this is
ideal
going
right
to take
now.
10,000 clips. In
I
real
should've
life, there's a
closed
near
right
infinite
there.
amount of variables that you can film on a green screen. For the neural network to handle any of those variables, it needs to see how they've been handled before. Secondly, I need this thing
Yeah,
to be
this is a full
mathematically
stop.
perfect. Because of that, I can't actually just film myself on a green screen. The transparency keys that I pull would be eyeballed
Yep.
and estimated. My solution is to do all of these pictures using CGI. because rendering these days looks photoreal. So with that in mind, this is what's going to go into a single point of training data. This is our neural network, and here's how we're going to train this.
Underfunded, and I
First,
get
we have an image that we're
absolutely
rendering the 3D
cooked.
of something on a green screen.
The thing that
This image
sucks
going
is
to
I
get fed to
fucking
our neural
missed.
network, and our network's going to try to predict what that image looks like without
How
the
the fuck
background,
did I miss this?
as well as a black
short?
and white map of the transparency. But these are just guesses. In order for the neural network to improve, make its guesses more accurate, it needs to also be able to compare these to the right answer, the ground truth. Because these are rendered in a 3D program, well, that's as
How
easy
the
as
fuck did
turning
I
off the
miss that?
background. We also can render out a perfect alpha channel. Now the neural network has the right answers. It can compare the program,
Okay, I'm done for the day.
the alpha channel, and improve itself over time. Now I just need to have the computer do this thousands of times with as many pictures as I can give it. It's a decade's worth of work to do 10,000 clips. So we're going to need to rely on something called procedural generation. And that is something that I don't know how to do, but Jordan Allen does.
Look, when you hear you need to make 10,000 renders of anything, naturally the first instinct is to just say no and quit. But I didn't do
I'm
that.
gonna
because
see,
I
but it
wanted
looks
to
like
do
I am
it.
done for the day.
But in reality, it's 1,000 different techniques, most of them hacks, all being worked together to make this system. And like these days, now you have a much more streamlined pipeline with established tools like depth compositing, physically based rendering, all that stuff. And back then, like none of that stuff exists. It's every single thing is like an invention of hacks to get you to something that looks real.
Yeah, exactly. My rule is if you do it 3 times, write a script.
That's a good rule. That's a great rule.
Between you starting to work on Gollum and then you working on King Kong here, you also did receive 2 Academy Awards.
Yes.
As a visual artist, what are you thinking of the not red carpet? Different? I am. I think it's okay.
I like Brad.
That was nice. Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah. And King Kong had a couple of things, like there was New York, because New York. I went to Peter and I said, okay, can you tell me, are you gonna do modern day or 1931? He said 1931. It's like, okay, great. So I went back and I said to the guys, we have to build New York in 1931 because we don't know what Peter's gonna do. So we did. We sent photographers to New York. We scanned everything. We found this old tax archive that had like aerial photos of all the buildings.
Oh, wow, okay, yeah.
That was done actually in 38, but it was close enough for our purposes, and we used that to
Yeah,
model all of New
that's
York.
a
And
trade
then we
I probably
swapped
should
out
took.
the buildings that were after 1931. We just filled them in with buildings that were similar or any other reference that we could find to essentially architect the city.
Okay.
We would just look at what are all the pieces that go into it, the kinds of architecture, the doors, the windows, the street lamps, everything. We just built this whole library of models, and then wherever Peter would point the camera, we would just tell it, build me a neighborhood of brownstones here. This set was a big 4-block by 4-block set. If you look at old studio backlots, they're always key intersections, or they need to block the street. We went the other way. It seemed like big green screens when you were close to them, but not when you were shooting, so you were so far away. We did that also that we could just extend it.
Yeah.
So what they would redress the shop windows, we would just add the tops to the buildings and then just extend them.
And that's like tactically putting the green screens specifically where you actually need them. They don't have to cover everything as long as they cover the edges.
They didn't even cover the edges.
Oh, well then.
The set was too big, but it was a token try.
Can you hear me?
When we had the first meeting with
Like a
Avatar 1,
3.5
after
hour.
having gone through the whole breakdown with Jim about what we were going to do and how we were going to do it, facial capture and like getting the rendering working and all that, he said, great, when do you think you can show me something? And I said, it'll be about a year. And he said, okay. But it did. It took us a year to actually get it all together. Jim understood like the importance of you got to build the foundations. You got to build the pipeline. You got to make sure the physics work. You got to get that all right before you start trying to get creative, because you'll just go crazy otherwise.
Through this time, your simulation tools are getting more advanced too. For water, for fire, for destruction. Weta is famous for inventing tools out of nothing that do really advanced things. Obviously, Massive was a massive deal. Tissue, I believe, was another program you guys developed for being able to simulate muscles off of the skeleton but underneath the skin, and just having that chain of motion drive everything that you actually end up seeing. Was that developed for Lord of the Rings, or was that later on?
That was during the first Avatar.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Okay.
This stuff was all still being done with just pretty basic deformers. around in the middle towards the end of the first Avatar, we wrote software for the muscle. So rather than doing deformers, we actually built muscles under the skin. And the idea there was to actually put muscle where the muscle should be and use that to deform the skin and solve the physics for everything. It worked really well, but it has limitations. Like, we can never really know what all the muscles in a body do or how to lay them out.
Like on a real person.
On a real person. Like, that representation is so simplified.
Sure.
And you start to see it. You can see the problems that come up with it, which is, again, why we went to a different technique for Avatar 2. But this served us pretty well.
That would have been
from Avatar
almost
1
1,000.
to Avatar 2.
Wouldn't have been too bad.
Yeah, Gollum, all the Planet of the
Yeah, I would
Apes
have been
films,
happy with
they're
that.
all using
I would have
tissue
closed
for
that
muscle
for that.
cells.
It's a very subtle thing too, that like it definitely, just like subsurface scattering, the moment it's saying that, oh,
So
that looks way better.
Well, you can even see it in the static
So
one because the
right
shapes are
here.
sculpted to the muscle shapes more directly. You can see it
Go
like in
here.
his arm. All
We
those
go more than
shapes that are holding and
50%.
changing. Yeah.
Yeah, the way his elbow shape or shoulder shape changes a little bit as he's reaching. His legs being flexed there.
Yeah.
The calf muscle.
Yeah, the compression against the calf muscle because
yeah,
you
that
can
one
solve all this.
kind of makes sense. I got clipped, but I could have closed it right there for like a half loss, but I didn't. And then this.
So the demo here is like you got the
And then
points on the
this.
face, and they're being tracked, and those are being applied to a 3D model in
Either I
live
would get on
action.
this
Live
tiny
action,
for
yeah,
value gap,
for
which
the
I
facial
don't really
system,
like.
So that was
But
the big,
when
big
this
breakthrough for us
closed,
was the idea of now using the head rig, and of course Jim at that point was already experimenting with the virtual camera, but it was a demonstration that you could do the capture from one character to another. But it allowed us to take that
Yeah,
next
when
step
we
in
closed
also the
both of
camera
those right
was
there.
captured. And that was really John Landau
Yeah, that was
just
the perfect
really
time to
started
get in.
using that term because it was all about the performance. It was Rob Legato
And then
who
we
had
can
been
close
developing
and
the
close
virtual
right
camera
here.
with Jim.
Get in and just write that bit down.
Yeah.
So little by little, we're getting all of James's super boxers.
Yeah.
The camera doing the facial capture here, it's just a single camera on Avatar 1, right? I know
That's
it's a stereo camera, a vertical stereo camera on 2 and 3.
Yes, we were lucky to even just get that to work. Like, those kinds of cameras didn't exist in those days. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, like a
Yes.
tiny camera that you
Yeah.
can just have on like a lightweight rig.
Yeah, we worked with Jim. We worked with Sam and Zoe, and just to figure out like what they were comfortable with.
Boom, that was a banger trade. Earlier I had 2 losses and 2 break evens. I was almost down 1,000, and I just slapped this $1,100 trade, jump in and make a couple more bucks to hit my 150 consistency for the day. Let's fucking go.